I've had a lot of comments and a lot of questions and a lot of folks contacting me, asking me one thing. I'd say the biggest question I get in the comments and folks contacting me is, where do I get the parts? Well, today, we're going to talk about it. If you get nothing else out of this video, nothing else at all, there's one piece of advice that I got early on that has served me very, very, very well. That advice was to get onto eBay and find a parts book. As for the parts books, at the moment, they're fairly inexpensive, and some of them are in poor shape. You can get a better deal. But one of the first things that you're going to need to do before you even look for a parts book is to identify exactly what you have. Let me show you. On the back of this D4, there's a tag right here that shows 7U. Now that first prefix, the number and letter prefix, is kind of slang for what everybody calls these period tractors. This is a 7U, we're working on 4G, we have a 7J parts tractor, and we have a 5T that we'll be working on in the future. That tag can be located on the back of the machine, right there. There's also a corresponding tag on the back of the engine block on the driver's side. As we found out in the past, that tag doesn't always correspond with what the tractor actually is. Over here on the 7J engine block, you can see the tag's been removed. But the serial number is still stamped on the block down here in the corner. And this will be on the driver's side front bottom corner. And the same thing can be said for the rear tag. You can see right there, it's still stamped 4G 9986 underneath where the tag goes. Once you've established what the serial number is for your tractor, then you can find the corresponding book. I'm going to use 4G 9986 as an example. Right here, I have a parts book that goes from 4G1, which would be an RD4, all the way to 4G 9999, the end of the 4G production run. So I know that my tractor is going to fall within those numbers. So this parts book is going to be applicable to 4G. Now you want to look out because some of these parts books don't include the part number you get. You might have an earlier one that doesn't go from maybe 4G1, maybe to 4G 657, and then it stops because they changed something in the parts. So you'll want to make sure that you have the parts book that applies to your machine. One very fun thing when you do get one of these old books is to thumb through it and see some of the notes that folks have made. This is one for our old 950 wheel loader. We had an 81J 4497. That was my dad's first loader, his pride and joy for digging basements. Inside these books, the part numbers, they're still relevant. Another fantastic book I was able to get my hands on from the Antique Caterpillar Collector Club was this reference book here that outlined the serial numbers and dates and manufacturer for different models of Caterpillar tractor. Now you may not have the budget to go out and buy a bunch of books, and I totally understand that. The Antique Caterpillar Collectors Club, ACMOC, ACMOC, you can Google them. They do have a lot of these online. If you're a member, you can go in there and do a little bit of research. The forum is also an excellent place to talk to folks for advice. Now, I did say those part numbers are still relevant, but they might not be in existence, and a lot of them have been updated. One of the handiest tools I've found online was tractorparts.com, also known as General Gear, I believe their website is. They have a parts crossover. You can type in the old parts numbers out of the parts manual, and it will show you all the crossovers, different brands and things that they have. And that has been a tremendous help for bearings, O-rings, more common items that are still in production today. That's the good news. Now let's talk about the bad news. The bad news is, I've heard it through the grapevine that all the major manufacturers, John Deere, Caterpillar, Case IH, they're going to stop production of parts for older models and have already stopped in most cases. So what's on the shelf now is all that's going to be left. I think they've already stopped years ago. But that's not the end of the road. A parts tractor will go a long way, but you're going to need tools to take parts tractors apart and very specific Caterpillar tools depending on what you're doing. Many of these parts, in fact most of them, I've actually gotten on my favorite place to look for parts, eBay. If you're persistent, they do pop up from time to time. And that goes for a lot of the maintenance parts, maintenance items, filters, O-rings, bearings, seals. That I've had fairly decent luck finding. Bigger parts, engine overhaul parts, they're nowhere to be found. I have been able to find aftermarket rings for a pony motor online, and these actually are the right spec. But I would be cautious, because the ones I bought for the D4400 engine are not the correct spec. Now that Floor and Tractor Parts is gone, another resource for maybe some of those older hard-to-find parts, and even they're getting scarce there, you could try General Gear, and you could also try Antique Crawler Parts up in Wyoming. I've taken to keeping every part I can find, every part I pull off that I don't need, or maybe even replaced, just in case. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to find any of these again. I have been able to find head gaskets and quite a few other little parts. They are still available at Caterpillar. I have the app on my phone, and, if I need something, I just give it a search. As for gaskets, we make most of those ourselves. There are a few I was able to find at Caterpillar, and I did grab them up if they had them, but they're not too hard to make, and once you get the trick of it, it's kind of fun. The good news is, there's still some aftermarket parts places around, and I've found quite a few of them at CTP. They make, this is a bearing for the track frames where they mount to the bottom of the D4, so a lot of these are still available. And if you search that part number, that's the one that's in the old book. As for the highway yellow paint, I think that's an All-States Ag Parts item. D44 engine components, parts for the head, completely unobtainium. Steering clutch discs, main clutch components, General Gear has them. Outer bearings, inner bearings for the bull gear, transmission bearings, they're also available at General Gear. Tracks, track frames, rollers, components like that, unobtainium. There are a few aftermarket places that do have tracks, grousers, and chain, but they have to be modified to work on the older D4s. And I believe that might even go for the D2s, D6s, and so on and so forth. Another thing that's handy about having these parts books, if you know a good machinist, they might be able to make you some of these, especially if you have the old one for an example. I bought this one for a number 64 toolbar for our toolbar D4. At some point in the future, I've thought about actually making a toolbar for that machine. And this book would definitely come in handy to give us an idea what they look like. Also had a couple of folks ask me about this, Gliptol. This has been a wonder. Let me explain why. Gliptol is similar to the factory coating that goes inside engine blocks, transmissions, and other compartments. I've used it here on the inside of the oil pan, on the inside of this valve cover, and to fix a crack in the block that's going on 4G. And it was designed to make kind of a smooth surface for oil to flow and not stick. It's designed to seal up porous surfaces like cast iron, inside of drivetrain compartments, and it works super well. We're very happy with the results. Gliptol, Glyptal, available on Amazon, I believe, and Eastwood. Eastwood has it online. Hardware items such as nuts, bolts, things like that, those are still mostly available at Caterpillar. There are aftermarket sources also that have the same bolts with the same part number. For the hard-to-find ones, such as this bolt that I used to make the tool to remove the injection pre-combustion chambers, McMaster Carr is a good resource. I've also found a few things at a new place online called Tracks and Teeth. Oh yeah, and the bellow seals? General Gear. Also helps to know somebody that's a machinist that can help you make a modification to make them work. And of course, in my case, I have to thank the viewers that have helped us out along the way and helped point us in the right direction and helped us find the parts or get us the parts that we needed. And yes, we are on a perpetual search for parts D4s, especially the earlier ones, the 4Gs, the RD4s. We want to stay with the D4s. We're getting the hang of it. We've built all the parts to work on them. I think maybe after 2 or 3 of them, we might know what we're doing. There you have it. there's the dirty secret of where I get all my parts, or where I don't. I do want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Yeah. See this street? They're also available at General Gear. Virtually all of it available. We are super happy with the results on this pan. And help us see this street. For the hard to find ones. Yeah, cut. Oh, howdy. Why are you still here? As long as you're here, you might as well subscribe. It's right there. Click it, or down below. And give us a like. And while you're at it, check out one of the other channels that we like to watch. This is our featured channel this week. Or check out one of my older videos.